What's going on? Move the Mouse here, back in City Skylines, the town of Rosewood. I made some really small changes in the background, fleshing out a couple neighborhoods, letting some people move in. But what I wanted to do today isn't so much of a video, but more of a process. And I'm showing you cinematic camera because it's one of my favorite ways for uncovering things that I might want to work on in the city. It gives you this different angle, this bird's eye view, and it follows roads around. And when it follows cars on those roads or pedestrians or whatever's pathing on there, sometimes you'll see some janky camera movements. And that can tell you kind of where intersections are a little funny, turns aren't quite what you thought they were. You know, when things aren't flowing smoothly like this, you know, panning, rotating camera. Maybe, you know, something is kind of a miss, but you also see some stuff in the background, and I'm looking to figure out where do I really want to do some detail work. And I mean, really, honestly, everywhere in the city, right? But what jumps out from these cinematics? You know, should those trees be a little thicker in the immediate backyards of those houses that are cut off, you know, from the next area? If there isn't a clear-cut path into the next neighborhood, should there be some separation? You know, visual paths, rocks, park objects. You know, where do we kind of fill in the blank space at this point? Because I think that's honestly one of the biggest things to do is just some detail work. And you haven't probably seen me go to this level. I know Adia will probably be very happy to hear, considering that sort of level of detail, because I don't usually do that in my videos. You got to go to other channels for that. Overcharge Egg, for example. If you want some, you know, some real kind of vanilla detail work. But I'm getting to that point with Rosewood where, you know, I see those empty backyards, right? There needs to be some trees in Greenwood, in some of those lots that are separating things. I think that would help kind of fill things out there. There's other things too, like I'm debating whether or not to keep the park objects as city parks, that is, not whether or not to keep them. The thing that I wish we could do, I wish we could mod on console, is I wish we just had a smaller option for the nature reserve side gates, because I love the nature reserve paths. They don't blend in well though with like the city park paths, or city park gates, I should say. So there's no real way to transition that. I mean, maybe there is. Maybe we can come up with something. But inspiration-wise, you know, where do I pull inspiration from? Well, I pull it from some other cities creators sometimes. But more often than not, I'm going to the real world and then trying to mimic in some way parks, plazas, cities. Google Earth is a fantastic way to do that. I highly recommend that. See what other creators are doing too, though. That can be really inspiring and give you some ideas. I mean, sometimes it gives you an idea of what not to do, but that's half the battle. So if you want to see kind of what some other creators are working on, especially on console, Switch, but also PC, come on by the Discord, link in the description down below. Pretty active group over there. I am hit or miss. I'm all over the place trying to keep up with my schedule. It's been crazy lately. But if you want some ideas, need tips, tricks, help, it's a great place to do it. So I want to go over to Greenwood with the tree brush. I know we've done this before, but you know, where we see some of these big empty lots, or they're not that they're big and empty, maybe not even a tree brush. Maybe we do a vegetation brush or 2 or 3 and fill in some of these areas, you know, but where can we get them, right? It doesn't let you overlap these the same way it does on PC. But even just filling in, there's a little spot right there. Just filling in some of that space. There was another one where it was going to let me. I'm just going to keep jamming that button, seeing if I can find a spot. There is a spot right around here. Do I get rid of that tree? It won't let me. Oh, it's right there. Come on. This is something that you definitely don't have to fuss with nearly as much on PC. Let's see if we can get a smaller bush in right here. And then kind of rotate it so that that will at least let you overlap a tiny bit on the rotation. I should have thought of that before. Because sometimes just rotating it around the space will let you kind of nest them in a little bit better. But you can see there, and you know, if we go too far out, it actually gets totally lost, right? And the same problem is happening. At least the trees still animate a texture when they're all the way out here. That's a downside to that. But you know, on an overhead, you know, if it was spinning around like this, oh, the level of detail pop in is so bad on console. That's crazy. Look at those trees. Look at how those trees change. Why does it do that? So at least from close-up views, that can look pretty interesting, I think. You know, some brush, some overgrowth, some spots that, you know, those aren't people's yards. Those are the dead space in between. So sometimes it makes sense that that would be a little overgrown and unmanaged. Do the same thing through here. Just fill in some of the gaps, and we can rotate them once in a while if we want those patterns to appear a little less repeating. And we can go in with other ones and kind of... Woodland Gardens. I don't even know which park that is at this point. But again, from the right angle, right, from the right distance, it makes sense. I think because of the texture pop in, though, we're going to do a bunch of trees. So let's fill those in. Let's drop in some alders. Love the wild conifers. The regular conifers. Now, we won't be able to really extend trees all the way to the edge of the map because then it wouldn't make sense that it just drops off there. So we got to figure out some ways to kind of hook these together, you know, on the other side of the farmland. Something like that, where it kind of curves in and around. And up on the ridgeline, meets up with those. Because then when we're in our cinematics, you know, maybe there's some trees up on the hill. Maybe there isn't. I don't know. Maybe that looked better without those there. They certainly look better as you get closer. But we could do something like that too, just to visually separate the city a bit. Although honestly, maybe I liked it better without those trees there on the hill. And maybe we do everything. Where's the tree brush again? Maybe we do clear that out. On top of the ridgeline, at least. Maybe the trees all live down here. And that really is where the farmland starts to take over. I had at one point kind of tried to cover up that intersection, but we'll deal with it. You may notice it getting dark, and let's let it get a little darker, because I wanted to take a look again at some nighttime cinematics for the city, and I think it's a good, again, a good way. When night hits, we're using more electricity, and we are right on the edge of that that break point. Let's take a look. What can we do? We don't want to add another $8,000 per week expense. That's crazy. Geothermal, noise pollutes. It doesn't pollute. It's a green cities option. Utilizes warmth in the Earth's core to give us another 80 megawatts. So I think that's more than enough. Where's our power plant? Way over here. You know, and maybe we move the plant back off the road and kind of have like an access road that runs alongside and makes this look like more of a part of the same property. I mean, it's not totally out of place next to it. Okay, and stop, mouse, stop, wait, pause. We'll deal with that after the night. Let's go into cinematic camera, see what we see, see what we want to change. The 4-lane road yellow lights problem. I've said it before. It's one of my favorite things you can change on PC with something like network skins. You can change the lights that are attached to the road so they're not this obviously different color from the lights in every other road. Gravel roads don't have lights, so we only have the lights of the buildings, which are lower lit anyways, because they're the Green Cities variants. So that whole neighborhood just looks very dim, but I like that look. We have a tree, a massive fire in the cinematic. That's fine. That's normal. That's just there for visual effect. I like the flow of the city though overall. We got a lot of people using the train, trams. We could look at adding some more bus lines, but I don't have the most efficient spot for the bus depot. We're moving people around on the trams a lot better anyways, and they move more people. More people you can move per car, the better. I definitely would consider, I think I mentioned it before, adding the park pass to all the train stations, making it so people kind of have to walk in there and connect that way. The problem then becomes though the garbage. Unfortunately, there's no way to fly the garbage in and out. They need a recycling helicopter depot. Picks up your trash by drone flight. I love that massive parking lot asset in that was it the Japan content creators pack. I forget what it is, like a service area, service station. I do want to use that as a matching highway rest area on either side of the highway. We have a lot of those on 95 128 in Massachusetts. You're driving along the highway and there's an exit that is just a service station. It's fast food, it's restrooms, it's a gas station, and there's like a mirrored version of it directly across the highway. So you pull off, get those things, pull right back on. It's completely isolated from everything else. There's no, you're not getting off into a town that just happens to have a gas station on the exit. It is a service station on the highway strictly for that purpose. And I feel like we could use those assets to do something like that. Maybe we'll look at that, see if I think there's a spot we could do that kind of on the edge of town, or maybe even near the office park. But I think on the edge of town would make more sense. So you're kind of coming in and out. It's your last chance for gas for a while. Seeing the city at night is great. This is just kind of a raw cut of random cinematic camera, right? When I go to do like a final cinematic, I'll record multiple nights, 3, 4, 5 nights of footage just to try and get some of these cinematic camera options, the ones that end up looking good. Some of them are great, and then they're following a car and it takes a really strange turn, and all of a sudden the camera just jerks around. Sometimes stuff bursts into flames. That's the stuff you got to keep for the footage. But yeah, when I put these cinematics together, at least on console, you can't really control where things are going. You can, and I think I mentioned this earlier, is kind of turn your sensitivity down, and then you have kind of more fine control over the motor movements of the camera. But it's still pretty tricky. It's not certainly as easy as something as like cinematic camera, where you can also change your frame rates and speeds and all this sort of stuff. But it's how I kind of put these things together, is I watch an awful lot of these types of shots that you're seeing now, and then piece it all together. So I keep saying it. I think it's, I'm going to get to putting the trees everywhere, and that's going to help fill in some of the backyards and just make the space flow a lot better. This is very much a town that was cut out of nature. At least that's the idea in my mind. It sort of modeled the whole thing after the idea of Boulder, Colorado. You have this flat expanse to one side of the city, the Rocky Mountains on the other, and a town that the tallest building is 12 stories. So we've kind of tried to adhere to that using just high-rise band office in a small section, and mostly or otherwise low density residential and commercial across the rest of the city, also with high-rise band, which I think can affect some of the commercial low res, but maybe even not. Maybe they don't even get to that point where high-rise band really matters, but it prevents top level, so it prevents that last stage of the upgrade, which arguably is the biggest one normally. So this build, really a fan of, but it's got, I've got a ton of stuff that I've got to get to still, but there's a lot of other stuff coming also. So I'm going to get back to the city's PC live build shortly, hopefully, but some other things have been distracting us, just game wise and life wise. So that's definitely something that I want to do. I also want to get back into how-tos and tutorials. Those take a lot longer to put together though. They can and they can't. So I do kind of, some of the how-to series is very much like a let's play, but breaking down really specific elements of the milestone unlocks. But I want to get into some more tutorials, and that might mean a little slower video output, just because it takes time, to actually at least create an agenda for the video, if not actually write some of the stuff in advance. I want to get into like really detailed breakdowns of transportation, of traffic, of zoning, and why certain types of builds or builders might do one thing versus another. I talk about a lot of the zoning and the choices that I make in my Let's Plays, and some people are like, no, that's flat out wrong. You should do it this way. And some of it's a matter of preference. Some of it's a matter of function. You can look at things, I think, through different lenses when it comes to cities and how you build your cities. Are you building it for function over form? That is, do you want really great traffic, but maybe it means roundabouts every 30 feet or, ridiculous side paths that you have to take to get to some neighborhood. Like I like to build more realistically. I always play the game, right? I think with the exception of two builds on PC, the current one, and there was another one I cheated on. But I play the game and I build up the money and I unlock the milestones, and I enjoy that challenge. So to some extent, you've got to think about the function of your city, but the form I think is also important in finding that balance, and something I'm getting better at the more cities I build. That's probably my biggest piece of advice for some people that I see in the comments that are like, I'm not sure how to do this, I'm not sure how to do that, I'm not sure how to make it look good or function right. Go back to season 1 of my Let's Play, which is only a couple years ago, 2018. And I'm good at explaining things. I wasn't good at aesthetically building things. And, some people look at my current map probably and think like, what, you're good at it now? But I'm definitely getting better. And it comes from practice and I think finding inspiration. And again, one of the best ways to do that is just look at real cities and try and adhere to, I don't think it's good to try and make a one-to-one copy. That'll drive you crazy. Some people are capable of that. Just check out the Berlin one-to-one build. Ami Polizei Funk is just incredible. He rebuilt Berlin top to bottom, modeled some of the buildings because couldn't find ones that worked. There's that type of creator, but I think, if you're struggling to find inspiration, creativity, one of the best things you can do is look at the major beats of a city, the most important things, the most important neighborhoods, and try and make micro versions of those and connect those together and then fold neighborhoods into one another. Don't try and do the thing as one big grid unless you're going for a Manhattan, but even that has, towards the southern tip of the island, some grids that are a little off kilter and kind of fold into the other grid pattern. So, there's ways to do it. And if you're building with an inspiration in mind, it can help you create that theory and follow through on your ultimate objective, building the city in your mind's eye. And the more you practice it, the easier it gets. And I think I'm getting there where I can actually put on paper, so to say. I can actually put into the game kind of what I had for a vision in my head. But if you stayed tuned this long through me droning on about, I don't know, my inspiration and creative process while watching some city cinematics, and maybe you just had on the background, I don't know. But if you're paying attention now and you're still here, we'd love to know your ideas, your thoughts. What are some little detail builds you would like to see? Someone suggested amusement park, and it's not a bad idea, but I think it's too big for a town this small. I think maybe a small zoo or nature reserve, maybe with a zoo kind of mixed in there. We can kind of trick it out. Might be able to do something like that. But, you know, I've got little things I've been holding off on way too long. I don't know that we need to make a full episode out of something like adding a mass transit option over to the industrial areas, but it's overdue. So if there's things you'd like to see, again, you stay tuned this long, so I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. What little projects do you think would be good? And come back to the video later and see what other people are commenting, and give them a like in on their comment to let me know, what other people are saying that you also would like to see, or comment and reply on those comments. But either way, let me know. So down below or in the description is also linked to the Discord. Lots of great people over there. We play on all different kinds of platforms. We talk cities and other games. So that's a good way to get inspired, get your questions answered, and throw some feedback out there too for the series and the channel. So we'd love to see you over there. Likes, comments, shares, they all help the channel a lot and are greatly appreciated. If you're new here, subscribe and consider hitting the bell to get notifications for updates in this and other series. Tune back in for content, usually Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, but I'm always behind schedule. We'll see if I get this one up in time on Monday. Maybe, fingers crossed. But again, check back for regular content. Until the next one, though, let's move the mouse. Emptying a cemetery. I knew I forgot something.